The chief advisor of the interim government in Bangladesh, Mohammad Yunus, has just announced a referendum alongside the national elections in the country that are scheduled in February next year. But why is a referendum creating such a buzz? Why is it news? Is there so much opposition to it within the country? And more importantly, why is Mohammad Yunus going ahead with it despite the opposition from political parties like the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or the BNP, which was the main opposition party during Sheikh Hasina's tenure and is seen as a front runner in these elections? Now, this issue of a referendum, or the demand for a referendum, is not new. It's one that's been voiced by a hardline Islamic party, which is the Jamaat-E-Islami in Bangladesh. And they've been demanding the referendum for various reasons. Now, what does the referendum do? Well, for one, it of course is a direct referendum on the July Charter, or the National Charter, that largely prescribes the future course of the country. Now, the Charter is a document that was a product of the deliberations of the National Consensus Commission, which was a body that came up with a reform proposal for Bangladesh and how Bangladesh can be governed in the future, largely to protect democracy amidst allegations that Sheikh Hasina during her tenure had largely become an autocrat. That allegation of course has been denied by Sheikh Hasina and her party, and they say of course Yunus and his team are actually some sort of occupiers. But beyond that, the problem that parties like the BNP also have pointed out is that the referendum is almost like an extra constitutional election. It's also an extra constitutional creation, in the sense that it creates constitutional revision bodies like, and other things like a bicameral legislature in the national parliament. That bicameral, the upper house that's going to be created with 100 seats, is likely to have a final say in passing of constitutional changes. So it largely creates an extra constitutional sort of space without a political mandate, without a democratic mandate that comes through elections in a democracy. And therefore, political parties like the BNP have argued that the implementation of the National Charter should largely be left to the democratically elected government, which will happen during elections. Some within Bangladesh have also argued that this could be a ploy by Mohammad Yunus to further delay elections, knowing fully well that it's going to create turmoil within the country, especially with so much opposition. Now, these are of course arguments. These are arguments that are being countered with counter arguments from the other side. But the point is that Bangladesh has now announced a referendum, not just an election. It's also a referendum, and that, many say, can actually muddy the waters. There's already enough political instability. Then you have a referendum. The referendum also gives certain mandates to a government, but the referendum is something that's been drafted by a body that does not have a political mandate. So these are all questions that are being thrown around in Bangladesh over this announcement. But this announcement is something that of course is also a recommendation of the National Consensus Commission, which is the body that came up with the July Charter after several rounds of consensus, and that of discussions, not consensus, of discussions. But those discussions were also held with members of political parties. But this is something that has now become an issue. Many believe that this could also lead to delay in elections, but finally this announcement has come. This was something that many believe, or critics of Mohammad Yunus believe, could be a ploy to also delay election. But this is something that's now been announced, but the debate will continue, and many see it as the precursor to more political turmoil in the country that could eventually lead to delay in elections. There are already protests happening in Bangladesh. The Bangladesh Awami League is protesting. A date has been announced to announce a verdict in the trial of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina on charges of crimes against humanity. So this particular referendum, that's why, is a contentious one. It's been announced. Some see it as a ploy to create more confusion and delay elections. Others say it's something that should happen with the elections, so that the mandate, or the path prescribed through consensus and through discussions, is actually adhered to by the next government that comes in, even though these particular recommendations that are part of the referendum has not come from a body that has a political mandate or is elected by the people, which is essential in any democracy. So that's of course the whole sort of contention around this referendum. Mohammad Yunus announcing that referendum in Bangladesh is going to lead to more turmoil is what political watchers and Bangladesh watchers say.
আমরা সকল বিষয় বিবেচনা করে সিদ্ধান্ত নিয়েছি যে আগামী জাতীয় সংসদ নির্বাচনের দিনই গণভোটের আয়োজন করা হবে। অর্থাৎ জাতীয় নির্বাচনের মতো গণভোটও ফেব্রুয়ারির প্রথমার্ধে একই দিনে অনুষ্ঠিত হবে। এতে সংস্কারের লক্ষ্য কোনোভাবে বাধাগ্রস্ত হবে না। নির্বাচন আরো উৎসবমুখর ও সাশ্রয়ী হবে। গণভোট অনুষ্ঠানের লক্ষ্যে উপযুক্ত সময়ে প্রয়োজনীয় আইন প্রণয়ন করা হবে।
For more such videos where we bring you the news with context and go beyond the headline, keep watching NDTV's YouTube platform for all the latest news updates from India and across the world, and especially the region and our neighbors. Stay tuned to NDTV.